Now, it is D-Day for Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua as the High Court is expected to make a ruling on whether to vacate orders preventing the swearing in of Deputy President-elect, and that is Kithure Kindiki. Of course, we'll be bringing you the details of that in this particular program from now all the way to when that ruling will be made in the High Court. We'll be crossing over to the High Court later on to listen to that particular ruling. But first, top stories this hour. Universities Academic Staff Union maintains their strike is still on after talks with the Ministry of Labour failed to yield significant results. The number of civil servants suffering from mental health has more than tripled in the last 4 years, State Department of Public Service affirms. And human rights groups condemn illegal arrest of peaceful demonstrators by the police, only for the courts to dismiss the cases for lack of tangible evidence. Right, my name is Brian Amwai. Let's begin with the latest today. Now, the High Court is this afternoon expected to issue a ruling that will determine whether the government will proceed with the swearing in of Deputy President nominee Kithure Kindiki. Now, lawyers representing the Senate, National Assembly and the state called upon the courts to lift conservatory orders on grounds of continuity within government. Now, Gachagua's lawyers argued that lifting the orders would allow Kindiki to be sworn in, thus rendering their petition an exercise in futility. The ruling is expected from 2:30 p.m. At the same time, the Court of Appeal has dealt a blow to Gachagua's with appellate failing to suspend the three from proceeding with their sittings. Gachagua was contesting the decision by the three bench at the High Court that ruled Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu has the power to empanel a bench. Now, the Universities Academic Staff Union, UASU, says the strike is still ongoing after talks with the Ministry of Labour failed yesterday. Now, they have also vowed to continue their strike despite the fact that the Employment and Labour Court declared the strike illegal. UASU laments government's failure to implement the 2021-2025 collective bargaining agreement, a 7 to 10% salary increase, comprehensive medical coverage and allowances. Now, the next talks will be held on Thursday with the Ministry of Labour in an effort to reach an agreement on the funds available to implement their demands. This comes at a time when UASU is demanding an allocation of 9 billion Kenya shillings to solve their problems, but the government insists it can only obtain 4.3 billion. Right, now the number of civil servants suffering from mental health has more than tripled in the last 4 years. According to the State Department of Public Service, workers suffering from mental breakdown had risen from 4,000 to a height of 19% to 14,000 per year. According to Public Service, PS Amos Getesha, harsh economic times coupled by low wages and rising demands within family circles had led to the mental health crisis. Now, he said that this had pushed the officers to depression, with some turning to alcoholism and others to suicide as the numbers continued to rise by the year. He added that the government was coming up with a medical cover for all civil servants under the Social Health Insurance Fund.
Counseling centers in all Huduma centers. We have also started the telecounseling in the Huduma centers. If you ring 1919, you will be connected to a counselor who is going to give you counseling services. The Public Service Commission has also assisted us to expand that department, and now we are going to have more officers who will be available to attend to the public officers.
Our intention here is to train and capacity build our professionals within HR for them to know if I encounter, how do I handle, and more specifically, how do I even prevent and empower the rest of my employees so that they're in the know of what is right and what is wrong.
In line with our mandate of developing strategic partnerships with both public and private individuals, we have now focused on developing partnerships with professional bodies. We already have developed partnerships with 3 of the professional bodies. One of them is the Kenya Institute of Supplies Management. The other one is the Institute of the ISPAC for the accountants, and also the Institute of Certified Secretaries.
Of course, now just news that are coming to our newsroom at this particular moment is that the appellate court has failed to suspend a 3-judge bench that is hearing the case of impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Of course, we continue to bring you up to speed with those particular reports. We'll also be having a conversation later on to try and make sense of the happenings in the country as far as this case is concerned. Of course, this adding to the losses that impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua continue to face in the corridors of justice. Now, President William Ruto has arrived in Burundi for the 23rd Summit of COMESA Heads of State and Government. Now, the President is expected to take part in high-level deliberations in efforts to strengthen Kenya's relations with partner states. Ruto will also use the opportunity to seek support for Kenya's bid to host the tripartite Free Trade Area Secretariat, which unites the COMESA, the East African Community, and the Southern African Development Community. Now, the Coast Civil Society Network for Human Rights has condemned illegal arrests of peaceful protesters. Now, according to the society's chairperson, Zedekiah Adika, peaceful demonstrators are always being arrested and harassed by police officers during demonstrations and after being taken to the court. The cases are dismissed for lack of tangible evidence. Adika is now urging the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions to review cases brought before the courts in a bid to ensure only substantial evidence is presented so as to reduce the burden of cumbersome judicial processes and resources wastage.
We want to state 3 things. Number 1, that the prosecution process is intended to let people follow the law. We do not think that even the guidelines for prosecutions were followed in this matter. Number 2, the prosecution should act, especially the office of the prosecutor in Mombasa. They should act to sieve what is relevant to the court that does not take court's time and what should not fall, what should fall in court that will save court's time and will add value to resources that we pay through our taxes to the state. So it is therefore important that the prosecution process in Mombasa reach a level where the rule of law is maintained.
DPP ndo ana prefer charges na yeye ana please polisi tu na kudamp watu kotini. Hii ni kutumia resources za nchi vibaya, hii ni kuumiza watu, na hii ni kugadhabisha watu, na hatutakubali sisi kama watetezi wa haki za kibinadamu masuala haya polisi kutumika na DPP kutumika ofisi zao kuumiza watu ambao wamejitoa kisheria kufanya maandamano ambapo ni haki yao ya kikatiba.
Now, the number of cyber attacks targeting digitized government services has hit 1.7 billion threats, with the numbers rising by the day, according to the Ministry of ICT and Digital Economy. Now, despite the attacks, the government has increased the number of digital services to over 17,000, with a promise to double the number in the coming years. Now, this emerged during the ongoing Information System Audit and Control Association Conference on Governance, Risk and Compliance. Now, according to Eunice Oma, the Director of Cybersecurity in the ministry, the government was committed to digitizing all its services.
And how we enhance advocacy for survivors to access services, to access justice. And this is very much in line with ActionAid's goal in advancing the rights of women, even as we look into launching our strategic paper for the year 2024-2028, which focuses on our rights for justice and focuses on the rights of women and living in poverty and exclusion.
So it's just a matter of like coming together and, resolving GBV issues collectively as Kenyans and not just specific counties. So I'm here to learn today and also share my insights in terms of being at the forefront to work ending GBV in Garissa.
Tangu tupate training kwa ActionAid ndio tumeanza kujua haki yetu, tukajua haki ya watoto wetu kama wasichana, na tumesaidika tangu tupate hiyo training kwa sababu sasa kama sisi tumeanza hata kusaidia wasichana wengi na tumeanzishia wasichana usaidizi kurudisha shule.
Now, ActionAid Kenya, in collaboration with various stakeholders, are calling for enhancement of justice for GBV victims and promoting the rights of women living in poverty. Now, through special projects, the coalition aims to end gender-based violence, child abuse and sexual violence in the country. Now, this is in addition to urging the government and other stakeholders to join them in facing out these challenges to ensure a safe and fair environment for all.
We are gathered here today for a very important discussion around survivors and how we enhance advocacy for survivors to access services, to access justice. And this is very much in line with ActionAid's goal in advancing the rights of women, even as we look into launching our strategic paper for the year 2024.
Now, the Nairobi County Assembly Committee on Housing and Planning has expressed its dissatisfaction with how the Nairobi County government has allegedly allowed the title deed for the Jivanji land to be used to secure a loan of 1.9 billion shillings to facilitate the completion of an ongoing affordable housing project in the Jivanji area. Now, the committee members, led by the minority leader in the assembly, Anthony Kirago, expressed their dissatisfaction with how the project has been managed, noting that the houses were sold to the public 5 years ago. Yet to date, those who purchased the houses are still awaiting possession.
Today, we've had some very shocking situation in the county assembly, whereby the agenda of the planning committee meeting has been changed. We were supposed to meet the minister and officers of the county to explain to us how a title deed left the county, ended up in National Bank, and ended up being charged for 1.9 billion. As far as we are concerned, as a long-serving member of this county assembly and as chairman of planning, I know very well that in the urban renewal, a developer was supposed to come with money. The county was supposed to come with land, and the developer was supposed to develop units and sell to the public. What is shocking is that the Jivanji project, whereby almost 1,400 houses were supposed to be built, they were sold out within a month. On top of that, 5 years later, there is no progress in that project. Secondly, they have gone further and used the title deed against the policy, the urban renewal policy, and against the law, because our courts passed a law that says that you cannot charge county property for money.
All right, now as part of the Cybersecurity Awareness Month, Safaricom has convened a 2-day industry-wide cybersecurity summit with a call on businesses, governments and individuals to invest in technologies that protect sensitive information and critical systems from cyber threats. According to stakeholders, cyber criminals are increasingly using advanced tactics such as ransomware, phishing and social engineering to infiltrate financial systems. Now, the attacks are said to be becoming more personalized and targeted, aiming to compromise sensitive data.
At this summit, we've brought together a partner ecosystem that has tailored solutions specifically to the MSME.
If you look at what is happening across the globe today, digitalization is here with us. It is the future. The key thing is collaborate to make sure that we innovate and deliver unstoppable growth.
We as cybersecurity professionals also need to improve the cybersecurity strategies that we are actually implementing within the organization. So on one side, you have how to use AI for your businesses and how to use AI for your cybersecurity and how to build a cybersecurity also practice around your AI.
All right, now the Nairobi Dish in a County program has so far established 17 kitchens in each sub-county with over 200 schools benefiting. Now over 300,000 pupils are also fed daily through the program. Let's cross over and listen in.
Washibe na wasome. What we're doing is part of a national and global imperative. And when you look at where we're moving as a continent and as a country, it's really the thing to do. In the 1950s, 22% of the world's population was in Europe, and only 7% was Africa. In 2050, the European population will be 7%, and 25% will be Africa. 1 out of 4 people are going to be in this continent. With 1 out of 4 people on this continent, there's a global imperative. What are we doing with the young population? Our median age in Kenya is 19. It is going lower. A few years ago, it was 23. Our median age is 19. The best way, which I see as a homegrown solution to guarantee the future of the continent, is by first guaranteeing the outcomes of our children by investing in their education. There is no greater way to guarantee the Kenya of 2050, the Kenya of 2060, by a strong and deliberate investment in young people today. How do we keep them in school? This is one of the ways to keep them in school. And not just to keep them in school, we've seen there are very many other benefits that have come. I want to really thank the team, Susan, Wawira, Amina, Esther, for the presentation of the details. And if you look at the kind of information we're getting, the impact is real. And so, beyond just a meal a day, there are huge benefits. It's an investment in the future. When we say feeding the future in Nairobi, we actually mean it. And we are going to continue investing, putting our money where our mouth is. I'm very proud of the fact that it's a program that we conceptualized, we researched, we thought about. It was not a by the way. I started talking about it a long time ago in Senate. I remember during the debate on the Mung Beans Bill by Senator Wambua of Kitui. That's when I think there's a clip that was played where I was saying, ideally we should be the off-takers of that. It is so fulfilling when you conceptualize something and then it becomes a reality. And you actually implement it and it becomes a reality. It's very fulfilling. Because today we're buying those beans from Kitui. We're buying Western beans from Busia. We're buying tomatoes from Nakuru, from Machakos. We're buying, the ripple effect of the program is so huge. But back then you'd think this is just a senator yapping and just speaking. And so for me, it gives me confidence that, leadership can actually change outcomes for people and for life. There are 2 testimonials that I really like in this story. One of them is of this young girl, Mildred. In January, when we were giving our bursaries and scholarships, this young girl has gone to Form 1. She's wearing her uniform, but she's wearing this watch. So we wonder, why is she wearing this watch? So Mildred had been, she's an orphan from New Kambo Primary School. She used to perform dismally because she was in school once or twice a week. She was not in school consistently because when there's no food, she'd have to go to Kangemi Market to sell a few things. She would have to help her grandmother. But for the first time, phase 1.
All right, away from that, a section of Kambo Town constituency residents have accused the national government of neglecting them. Now, the residents, mostly youth, lamented that the government has not fulfilled key campaign pledges like employment creation, eliminating the killer police squad that has been blamed for a series of abductions across the country. At the same time, they have accused elected leaders who they claim have not been pushing for completion of key development projects like ICT hubs meant to create job opportunities for the youth.
The former government, kutoka hii government iingie hiyo hub ilisimama, hakuna kitu inaendeleaga hapo, nikaa stores hatujui nini inawekwa hapo. And hence tunaona kwa areas zingine ICT hubs zinatumika, zina create employment, kuna hizo online job vijana wanapata. So hata hii the whole story ya kupeleka watu Qatar na tuko na resources hapa kwa hii country yetu, hatuoni ikiwa ya maana sana juu hata hizo jobs wanatia watu za Qatar, si watu wote wanaenda wanahangaishwa huko.
Ukiangalia ile tawa iliwekwa pale Kiambu karibu na police station, hiyo tawa iko dormant, haijakuwa ikitumika hata kidogo. That tower is supposed to facilitate money to go to the bursary fund. Sisi kama mwananchi, watoto wetu wanahitaji kusoma. Hiyo tawa tulikuwa tumeambiwa a few times ago ati hiyo building ikirentishwa, hiyo pesa itaongezeka kwa bursary. Bursary imebaki the same.
Kienda barabara zote hakuna barabara imetengenezwa. Hiyo ni mtu wa uga, asitoki mtu wa uga sisi. Sisi tunataka tutengeneze barabara. Hata tusuie mwambie hatutaki tusuie yake, apeleke na huko. Sisi tulimchagua tukiwa tumependa kuchagua yeye. Lakini hatuangalii hata kidogo. Hivyo ndivyo tutasema.
So ningependa tu kuwajumisha viongozi wetu wa huku mashinani waweze kutenda na kuendeleza maendeleo venye walivyowaambia wanakijiji ama watu wa mashinani, na ndio angalau wanaoishi mashinani waweze kupata maendeleo.
Right, men are being urged to take the lead in the fight against HIV/AIDS in order to end the epidemic by the year 2030. Now, speaking during the launch of this year's World AIDS Day Half Marathon, Health Cabinet Secretary Deborah Baraza said that the boy child holds the key to ending the triple threat towards achieving an AIDS-free Kenya, which include gender-based violence, early pregnancies, and new HIV infections. Now, this year's World AIDS Day will be commemorated on the 1st of December under the theme promoting the health and well-being of men and boys.
You have been infected with HIV, even if you have substance abuse or other things, you can actually be rehabilitated and have capacity to support and build the country. So how do we hold their hands and support them? And so I like the theme that we need to support men and boys during this time, but equally have a family approach so that we are not leaving anyone behind, but we are supporting the whole family in health. And that is actually the theme when you talk about universal health coverage.
Kenya is a high TB HIV burden country. For a long time, we've been programming separately. We come talk to you about TB today. Tomorrow we come and talk to you about HIV. But now we are saying we are going to bring together TB and HIV because most of our men, we are identifying them in the TB clinic when sometimes it is too late.
This historic event is held in anticipation of the World AIDS Day that will be commemorated on the 1st December and marks a pivotal moment in our shared commitment to end AIDS in Kenya by 2030. Today we gather here to unite our voices and actions towards a future free of AIDS. And this half marathon is a powerful call to action, challenging each one of us to contribute actively to Kenya's health.
Right, now human rights groups are calling for concerted efforts towards transforming the lives of children, families and communities of Kenya, especially those affected by hunger, FGM, GBV, among other humanitarian crises. Now, during their 50-year celebration, World Vision says it has focused on holistic and sustainable community development while integrating education, health and economic initiatives, empowering communities through participatory approaches and financial inclusion strategies. Now, that has seen the construction of over 500 schools, reaching more than 100,000 individuals with HIV/AIDS interventions.
In mind for Kenya is where every child does not die before the age of 5. Because we know if you survive 5 years, the chances of becoming an adult are very high. We also have a future where we are saying that every girl should not be pregnant as a child. We want every child, every girl child, not to go into marriage before they are an adult. We want that this Kenya should be free from female genital mutilation. We want a child who is to be in school should be in school and remain in school and progress age appropriately.
I did take time to try and see how the water projects are being implemented by various actors along Lake Victoria. And I've seen some studies confirming that majority of the boreholes are actually very salty, especially around the lake. And I've been pitching to your teams on the ground that we probably need to begin to look at how we build tanks to trap water from streams or to harvest water from the lake onto water tanks on hills.
All right, we do want to take a break here on the program this particular moment, but just a reminder that when we come back, of course, we'll be engaging our guests and having a conversation around issues that are happening in the country, and that has to do with the impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who's ruling on whether the orders to suspend the swearing in of Deputy President nominee, that is Kithure Kindiki, will actually be stayed or vacated. Of course, we'll be getting into that. That ruling is supposed to be happening at 2:30 p.m. We'll be having a conversation, try to make sense of this, what's happening in the corridors of justice on the political front as we await that particular judgment. We take a break. We'll be back in a few.
When it's a Saturday, there's only one entertainment show in East and Central Africa. Arena 254.